order when Biden left the borders open for 4 years? Was he concerned about chaos when Americans were being killed by unlawful migrants? I mean, what if you look like a cop, Mr. Mayor? Are you concerned when officers are killed or injured in the line of duty? Where was all this outrage like during the Biden administration, Jonathan?
Yeah, exactly. When 10+ million people were brought into this country illegally, and, you know, we know from Jacob Frey, he is the George Floyd mayor when things went crazy in Minnesota then, and he couldn't control that. But what's really outrageous about what he's saying, he's like, we'll stop this if you don't enforce the immigration law. You weren't invited in. You weren't all of these things. It's like they do not need to be invited in. And moreover, President Trump and ICE have a responsibility and an obligation. It's not an elective. They are supposed to enforce the immigration law, and they've been doing a fantastic job of it. If you look at the overall crime numbers, it speaks for itself, which is the irony of what all these Minnesota leaders and these Democrat leaders are saying. Because ICE is making their communities safer. They'll never give him the credit for it, but what he is doing is doing everything he can to shut them down, to impede them from doing their job, and it's so shameful, and it's so important that this administration continues enforcing law in Minnesota because that's their responsibility, and they need to vindicate the fact that there's a supremacy clause issue, and they have the absolute right and authority to enforce federal law, despite whatever the locals think or want to have happen.
Yeah, take care that the laws are faithfully executed. I just can't remember where I read that unless it was in the U.S. Constitution. All right, the Insurrection Act. Let me ask you about that before I let you go. It's, to me, for when states either cannot or will not enforce the law. What does it take to trigger the Insurrection Act in your judgment? What should feds do when, as in Minnesota, they're willfully ignoring federal law?
I think right now what's been done in Minnesota has been enough to trigger it, because if there's an unlawful obstruction that makes enforcing federal law impractical, then that's enough, and they can have a declaration to do so. And I heard Todd Lyons on one of these shows earlier talking about how they normally have 5 to 10 agents out to do arrests, or 5 to 6, but because of all of the obstruction going on in Minnesota, they need 10 to 15 agents per arrest because they need agents to protect other agents. So I think we're there right now. President Trump's been very patient, but these leaders in Minnesota, it would be different if they were cooperating and trying to stop this, but in fact, they continue to fight against the federal government and ICE.
All right, Jonathan, I want you to do some pro bono work. I want you to call Mayor Frey and let